There's nothing quite like installing the latest productivity app on your phone. Surely this is going to be the one that helps me through my to-do list, right? Right? In this video, I'm going to break down why downloading productivity apps actually tank your productivity and what you can do instead. So we all want to be more organized and productive, especially if you're a fellow ADHDer and organization and task management doesn't exactly come naturally to you. And if you are like me, we can download and set up the latest to-do app only to forget about it and move on to the next shiny app 2 weeks later. And then we feel bad because it's yet another app that we've wasted time on and often money on as well. So why aren't productivity apps as effective as we want them to be? Well, a lot of the times it's because most of us use productivity apps really ineffectively. Well, firstly, we often try to use too many apps. So in order for a productivity app to be productive, it needs to give us back more time than we put into it. When we download 10 new apps for different specific parts of our workflow, then it can actually cause more time to be lost. Those little tiny app icons can get lost in the sea of other apps and we can spend time looking for them. But not only that, we actually use up brain power switching between them. This is called task switching, and it's when we go from one task to another. When we do this, it uses up cognitive load, uses brain power. So our brain takes energy to readjust from the task that we were doing and going on to the new task. And this is especially difficult in an ADHD brain where it uses up even more brain power. So simply switching from one app to another app, our brain has to reorient itself. It has to remind itself of the interface it's using, where the buttons are, whilst we're also holding in our working memory the task that it needs to do. When you switch from one app to another, it's the equivalent of going from 65 miles per hour back down to 0 miles per hour and then having to accelerate your brain back up again. And because our brain acts like this, it means that trying to use productivity apps, we struggle to build effective and efficient long-term habits. So to explain this, in order to do things efficiently, our brain needs repetition to turn things into a habit, to make it sort of stick in our brain. And productivity apps can actually prevent things from becoming a habit, or worse, it can create inefficient habits like the one that we mentioned earlier. The reason is that when we perform a task, let's say manually entering an event into our calendar, this builds a tiny road in our mind to make it slightly easier the next time. The more that we repeat this, the more that we build something into a habit. When we offload that task onto software, for example, having AI rearrange your calendar for you, then we don't build that little road in our mind, which means that over time, we actually get worse at the task that the app is designed to do because we're not using that part of our brain. So we actually over time lower our efficiency at doing that task, which means that we end up relying even more on the app. And that leads me on to the next problem, which is that productivity apps can actually change functionality massively, very, very quickly. So the good thing about software is that it can be updated and changed very, very quickly, very easily, adding new features, new ideas, new workflows. But this can also mean removing or changing features that are an essential part of our workflow. And if you're integrating multiple apps together, then the functionality can break between them without you even noticing. And this is actually something that happened to me. I was using a to-do list app that was designed to put tasks on my calendar automatically. And one day they changed the functionality. And because of my ADHD, it took me days to realize that I had missed out on some really, really important stuff that I thought was automatically put into my calendar. But even when apps do work and they are efficient, using productivity apps can bring the biggest problem of all, which is increasing your phone usage. So phones are categorically our biggest distraction. As a society, 48% of people say that cell phones distract them from their work, and studies show that mobile phone notifications reduce work efficiency by 45%. And by using productivity apps, you are increasing the likelihood of distraction, canceling out any real time gains that you've got in the first place. And for the easily distracted like us, ADHDers, having productivity apps on your phone is kind of like holding Alcoholics Anonymous at an open bar. Now, I know that not all productivity apps are the devil. I'm not suggesting that we go back to only using pen and paper, but as the multi-billion-dollar industry grows, the potential for productivity decreases as more and more companies try to persuade you to switch to the newest, shiniest software that they're releasing. So what can we do about it? Well, there's a few things. If you use an app, reduce the notifications down to the absolute minimum. Be ruthless with just notifications in general. What notifications and apps do you actually need? And this stops the important stuff from getting lost in the sea of pings. You can prioritize the productivity app above all of the others. The next thing that we can do is really think twice about committing to learning a new app. You know, learning any new software requires making it a habit. It requires the upfront time investment. So before you download a new app, ask yourself, am I going to commit to learning this app inside and out? Or am I going to skim over it and not actually fully commit to it? You can also just pick one app or one ecosystem and stick with it. So learning one ecosystem, for example, like Google or Notion, learning that deeply is an upfront time investment, but that's going to pay off much longer term. If you know how to use one tool really, really well, then you can work a lot faster than by having lots of specialized tools that are doing different things. And this is something that I've learned myself when I have been editing videos. The more I started downloading extra tools to help, it actually tanked my productivity completely because I was having to switch between these perfect softwares for each task. And actually it spent more time switching between softwares than actually just using one program and using that well. And doing this saves you transporting everything across to a new app as well. So if you master one or two apps, you'll be on a much, much stronger footing in the long term. And the most important of all is learn rules over tools. So most productivity apps can be replaced with good organizational skills. You know, learning good organizational skills helps you in whatever ecosystem you work with. And in turn, that reduces the need for a special app that's going to do that for you. A great example of this is the Power method, which I do a complete rundown of in this video. So if you want to take a look at that, then I will see you over in that video. Thanks, guys.